explaining to marketing that I'm doing HR, or explaining to HR that I'm doing marketing.
Hi, everyone. Sorry. You've seen me already, Oana here. I manage the talent acquisition group for tech, product, and internal IT in Criteo. I actually joined Criteo a year ago after having worked in Dublin and Amsterdam. So this is a brand new world. Baguette is amazing over there, so take a Eurostar until you can. I think 31st is Brexit, right? The reason why I joined Criteo at that point, they just launched an initiative to build an AI lab as a spin-off and kind of an internal extra brand, around 20 million investment in just hiring researchers and machine learning engineers, like a massive investment for Paris and for France. Criteo does advertising technology, if you're not familiar with them. And I think what attracted me was the fact that they had this massive investment in performance from algorithms, but also collaborating with around 20,000 advertisers and 4,000 brands. The team is growing, we're around 3,000 people. And for me, this is very interesting for a European-based organization, right? I've worked in Facebook before, we love this kind of US-based brands, but I kind of wanted to come a bit closer to home, and this felt like a really good thing for me. The other good thing was the fact that I was thinking I will learn a lot from their model of advertising and working with advertisers for my own interest. I work with job ads, and really marketing those in a very different way helped us a lot. So this is kind of the model that Criteo is using, and I really love the framework and its simplicity. We talk about awareness, consideration, and conversion. And this can be taken into any recruitment marketing program anytime. You can plug in, plug out points, and this was for us a bit of a guidance into what we wanted to do with our referral program. Are you familiar with the 3-pillar model? I see some heads. You like it. Great. So we had this nice Boolean goal, 150 mid and senior level engineers to hire, and increasing our employer brand awareness. There is a small caveat on this goal. It was a bit set in May, because that's how we do things sometimes. We just got some extra cash, so we said, let's hire some more by the end of the year. But we said, yes, we will try. The second caveat is we actually didn't have an employer brand manager. And we had none in sight at that point. We had Diane, a brand specialist inside the TA team, which helped us massively in building some of our programs. But it was something that we thought we don't know exactly how to do altogether, but we will give it a shot. So we did. We established that we need these 3 points: redefining our audience, engaging our employees, and maximizing sources. It was super important for us to start with the employer brand to actually get the name of Criteo out there, even more than it was. It is a darling of the French market, actually, but we have more and more incoming competition. Google, Facebook are coming, Amazon, they're all doing retargeting solutions. They're hiring the best engineers in Europe and the world. So we didn't necessarily have it very easy, right? And maximizing sources for us was very important because we do have an interesting pipeline. We have a decently big recruitment team, but we knew we could do a bit better. Our referral program should be more than a bonus plan and an internal job board. That's what every TA manager says all the time, right? But there are, I think, reasons why we don't invest as much as we should in our referral programs. And these were our assumptions and what we hear in the industry. Organic is sufficient. It is not. We assume that if I know somebody, I will refer. If I know Diane as a great potential employee, I'll just refer her and that's it. But usually people don't go that far to get interested in people's life, professional goals, and kind of understanding where they are in time. We kind of assume that everybody's fine and happy until they say, hey, I'm looking for a job. So organic is not sufficient. The second assumption, and we actually had this conversation at the table earlier, it costs too much. Everybody has a bonus plan for their referrals. I think most of us do. But we don't invest in the little things that we can do in the communication, awareness, those first two pillars, right? The awareness and the consideration. We count on the input and we expect an output, but that's not the whole story. The third assumption is it kills diversity, which is not entirely untrue. Again, if we talk about that organic vision, but there are ways to actually improve diversity through your referral program. So we had to go through a couple of iterations of building a plan and going with that plan to our leadership team. And these were the 4 main pillars that actually convinced everybody to just give us a bit of a buffer in terms of time and resources. Referrals reduce time to hire. Everybody here is struggling with how slow the processes are, how difficult it is to move fast through the funnel when you have a complex process, and to actually keep candidates engaged throughout your issues or throughout your kind of nurturing pipeline systems. We improve also quality of hire. People are pre-qualified, and you get already a validation of the talent that you're going to get in. Reducing the turnover rate. This was a very interesting one when we did some benchmark and we looked at some studies from Stack Overflow and HackerRank. People don't necessarily have a big problem in getting tech jobs, but they do have a problem in finding the right one for them. Coming in and feeling like you belong, it is very important, and having somebody that you know adds up to that engagement and belonging once you're in. And the fourth is offer acceptance rate, which for us has been 100% for referrals when we started the program.
So today we're presenting what we did for the referral program. More largely, it's something that you can use for any recruitment initiatives that you want to market internally, whereas it's the thought process that made us arrive to this result, or whereas it's the framework itself. So it all started with a strong brief. Brief is the translation from HR to communications. If you've worked with creative agency before, you've probably quite familiar with the exercise. This brief needs to be very clear right from the start, because it will be like your check-in point for all along the process to make sure that you're heading to the right direction. So what should be in that brief? 4 main things: objectives, targets, timeline on stakeholders. In our case, our objective was conversion. We wanted to receive profiles from people who were being referred, with a strong focus on diversity, because we wanted to have, diverse kind of profile. Our target was global, and not only tech, but also all of the products, sales and operations of our company. We had quite a short timeline. We wanted it to be implemented within 2 months, and we had too many stakeholders for this slide. So with that in mind, we really wanted to make our current employees think about skills that could be within the network. We wanted them to be curious and to engage in having a conversation with their peers. Our first idea was to show them that there were some skills in the network that they might not see. But with a step back, it might be a bit too much of effort to ask to our employees to engage within this discussion. So we rather choose to highlight the skills that they might have in the networks that they already know existed and that could be of interest for companies. We started with this, and we soon realized that we were forgetting 2 main elements. Maybe you've spotted them already. First thing that we must thought of is related to diversity. So if our creative campaign was to focus too much on strong and close relationships that our employees would have, it means like a very short number of acquaintances, right? People you used to work with, your close friends. So for us, even if quite naturally as a recruiter you would like to receive like high quality profiles with like strong recommendation, it would concern such a short number of people that finally you would receive a few leads and then nothing more. So this was the first hurdle that we came across. Second one was when referring someone, you also have to evaluate the quality that you think this person might have. And when the technicity of the job is something that's very blurred to you, it may be a bit more difficult. So for example, this is our organization in a very simple way. We soon saw that R&D people were more likely to refer sales and operation people than the contrary because of the skills technicity. But we really wanted to focus on those weak links. So this is what we call weak links, links of people that you think are good, but you're not that sure, to embrace more people and to go through that first inner circle of acquaintance and to find people with a more diverse profile. Lesson number 2 is really centered on who you are trying to engage, which are your current employee. Most of the time you know what they are like, but you don't really know what they like. So how do you make sure you engage your employee within your recruiting, your referral program? So after taking a step back, building our audience persona, we came with a final idea, and we'll show you how to test it and how to run it. So this is our thought process. When I was telling you, you have to know a bit more about what your current employee like. You can see it in the inspiration part here. We knew our tech candidate like Netflix, they like Reddit, Quora, well, on a lot of other things. What we saw as being interesting for us is that there was this massive trend on all of those channels that people were consulting around debunking the myths, going through artists' life or authors, sportsmen, and seeing all of the paths that they would have going through that success. So with that in mind, this is the final creative campaign that we came with. So we took the idea of having all of those myth history to make sure it matches our audience. We branded it so that every operation can be represented under one hat. Here's the name of our campaign, is One Connection. And we had a strong focus on the skills that we needed to recruit, to recruit on the call to action. On this, when you take back your brief, and in that case, it was matching objectives, targets, and timeline. Then all of recruitment team don't have creative or marketing teams working hand in hand with them or being very very free. So how do you make your life easier? One key concept of marketing is the pillar and micro content strategy. So once you've created this big chunk of content, you have to create it thinking that you may need after to parcel it out into very small chunks. And all of those little contents created around your big one will then have to be thoughtfully used into your distribution strategy.
Going into that, I think I need my mic on, thank you. There is this question always, right? If a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, did it actually fall? So we made all this kind of mind mapping of what we want to achieve, but how are we going to get this out there? This is always, I think, the biggest problem that people face, especially that we have now so many channels that we communicate within our organization. Where do you focus? It's okay? For us, first it was the good old-fashioned print and TV. Again, we took inspiration of what we see with our clients, with our advertisers. We work with Sephora, we work with Booking.com, we work with all these massive brands, and we kind of wanted to get inspired. What do? They actually double the channels, but they start first with good old-fashioned print and TV. And the reasons that we selected somehow to kind of move forward it are three main factors. The trust factor, consumers trust print advertisers 30 4% more than digital ads. And we are in the digital ad industry, so it's not really great for us, but it's good to know and use this. The multiplier factor. 40% of the viewers talk about what they saw with their friends and family. I catch myself almost every week in the Paris metro tube, right? Taking a picture of a poster of a concert that I might want to go to and showing it to my friends or sending it via some other channel. So more people know about what we experience in print and TV than we actually think they do. And the sticky factor. Print is easier to read, to understand, to dive deeper, to remember that you want to ask a question about it, or actually strike a conversation when you are in front of that print. So we made the posters that Diane showed in terms of visuals and creative, and we just blasted them all over the organization. And we just didn't do the R&D technical teams type of areas. We went everywhere. Product, sales, operations, creatives, recruitment, anything that you would think of, be everywhere. Second was to be where all people are from our part of the company in the same time. Maybe some of you have this type of events, all hands, or events where everybody kind of gathers together. We have this every month, and this was me with the CTO explaining the campaign and explaining why referrals are cool and making sure there are incentives to go forward with raising awareness about this campaign. And I actually didn't even mention the bonus, the referral bonus. Third point was super interesting. When we had this session with everybody, like we have around 700 engineers, and we had the posters all over the place, people started coming to us, slacking all of us in the team. Hey, how can I help? I saw this, it's cool, I want to be a part of it. We do what we call badass networking sessions, ad hoc sessions where a recruiter sits down with an engineer and goes through their network, all of it, to scan who would be of interest. And that happens mostly with people who recently joined or with people who actually have a very specific need. On this occasion, because there was so much awareness, we organized group sessions. Couple of them every week to actually engage with more groups at once and also for them to share where their networks are. And the fourth, this one I think we did because we wanted to have a bit of fun, right? The gamification point. We launched a challenge. France, I don't know if you're familiar, they take a lot of holidays during August. This is great to make connections. So we counted a bit on this timestamp effect, and we launched a referral challenge right at the beginning of September when people were back to work, especially like a specific timeline, 1st of September, 30th of September, with small incentives, not just for the referral bonus, but for the milestones that their candidates would have in the process. We committed to high transparency. We said 2 days SLA to go through any referral that comes through our funnel. And this was also a pain point that we had in the recruitment process altogether. And people really appreciated that we listened to that. So this is week 1 of launching this campaign. Couple of people refer. Tier 1 means you launched the referral in the system. Tier 2 means that person actually made it through the first technical interview. Tier 3 means that they've passed the on-site interview. We also committed to a very short timeline to process altogether these applications and referrals, actually. We had a bit of an advantage. We worked really hard to cut time to hire from 60 days, where we were around May, to 35 days. And this also encouraged people to really push through, trusting that the referrals will be taken care of. There is a bit of a pride situation, right? When you refer somebody, you don't want to meet that person over a beer saying, hey, I never really heard back from your company. People don't like that. But it also feeds into this desire for status, for competition, and for achievement. This was mid-campaign, and you could see a desire to be part of this social community that contributes. Beyond the 2 days SLA, we also committed to have weekly updates on what is happening with all this campaign and have a very direct communication, but also give tips on how to increase the way you can refer. And we made a very big point on communicating on how to tap into your network and be really inclusive. Now I have a couple of things. And this was the end. A lot of people already went through the final interviews, a lot of people getting offers already, and many others being still in the pipeline. It was a very big success for us as a time-constrained campaign, but throughout October, we see the same trend now keeping without the incentive. And the incentives were very small gifts like a Raspberry Pi, right? So we did get the engagement, we got the results. We also got very close to hitting our goal in overall target because of this extra push that we had.
So what's next? When we created this, we want the momentum to keep going internally. So what you can see here are the top referrer of Criteo receiving their gifts. We know that sometimes in big organizations it's a bit harder to put in place. So another idea that we have is to link this incentive of referring someone to your recognition program, which in our case is done with Spotlight. But at the end of the line, we should not forget who we are willing to address. So we are communicating a lot externally, especially on social media, to advertise that we have a strong referral culture, because ultimately we want somebody who would be interested in Criteo thinking about who we might know within the company that would be likely to refer him or her. So it may be tempting to forget this external part because they're less easy to get access to rather than your current employees. But I will conclude on saying that if you really want to keep the momentum going, you have to find a balance between the resources that you have internally and engaging your future resources if you want them to join. So thanks a lot. If you have any difficult question, you can ask Oana, and I take the other one with pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you very much, both of you.